Ink ribbon.
When we think back on Tomb Raider games, we think of course of Lara Croft. You may remember her as a strong, independent badass of a woman who is as fierce as she is beautiful, an archaeologist who loves artifacts and respects the rich history of the tombs she explores, right? Right?
I told you! Where is my mother?
Well, about that. If you remove your rose-colored glasses and put away your nostalgia for a moment, it turns out that in the real world, the things that Lara Croft does might not be seen in such a positive light. And I couldn't think of a better person to help me with today's video than Chris from Raidercast.
Hi, I'm Chris, and I produce Raidercast, which is a video channel and podcast exclusively about Lara Croft's adventures in Tomb Raider.
So let's review the tape and see exactly what Miss Croft did that could be so bad. Here's a list of the top 10 worst things Lara Croft has ever done.
Number 10.
Storming Area 51. Remember in September 2019 when everyone was talking about storming Area 51 and seeing what the government was really hiding? Well, back in the 90s, Lara did it before it was cool. And unlike the people who showed up, Lara was successful. A little too successful. Not only does she make her way into the base, being observed by the military, but she also breaks out of military custody, releases prisoners, kills dozens of military men and some military dogs, destroys tons of equipment, and even launches a missile. I'm no expert, but I'd say she would probably be in a lot of trouble for all this. I guess the good news is that she saw that there are actually aliens, though they were dead. And before climbing aboard their spacecraft to take a piece of the meteorite, she spots what Area 51 was really hiding. Killer whales.
Number 9.
Breaking the UNESCO 1970 Convention. Most of you have no idea what the hell the UNESCO Convention is, so let me break it down. Basically, it's a law that was created to prevent the trafficking of illegal cultural items. This had to be enacted due to the trafficking of these artifacts and goods becoming a huge problem in many countries, along with things like drug and weapon trades. Now you may be saying, but Lara isn't in it for the money. This is true, but in her case, it's still stealing the artifacts. And we know that she took them because they're all proudly on display in her home. The fact is, regardless of her intentions, what she has done is not just illegal, it's broken an international treaty. There's also a woman who actually did this in real life. A woman named Joan Howard who was nicknamed Indiana Joan as well as being called the real-life Lara Croft. Due to her husband being an officer in the United Nations, she was able to use her diplomatic immunity to bypass the huge amounts of paperwork and red tape that archaeologists normally have to go through, and she was able to obtain several priceless artifacts from Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, and other places, which she now proudly displays in her home. Sound familiar?
A recent profile of her in an Australian newspaper showcased her extensive collection of Neolithic axe heads, Phoenician pottery and weapons, Roman coins, and more.
Number 8.
Causing a Maya apocalypse. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Lara steals a dagger, but not just any dagger. This is the dagger of Shak-She, which has warnings all around it that if taken, it will trigger a permanent solar eclipse and bring on the end of days. Now, in her defense, Lara did have good intentions, trying to prevent Trinity from taking it and using the power of a god. But the fact of the matter is that Lara took it anyway, only to have Trinity immediately take it from her, which has immediate and dire ramifications. The biggest one is that it causes a tsunami to wipe out the innocent Mexican town she was in, drowning pretty much every one of its citizens, and the rest die of other causes. Namely, a child falls to his death, and cements the beginnings of the consequences of Lara's actions.
Number 7.
Breaking into the Natural History Museum. In Tomb Raider 3, Lara does some extremely questionable things, specifically in the level Lud's Gate in England. Lara spends most of the level breaking into the Natural History Museum, a place that protects many of the artifacts that archaeologists have found, which, while illegal, that's not that bad since Lara doesn't go out of her way to steal or destroy anything. However, all this goes flying out the window when Lara uses lethal force against London guards. Keep in mind, these guards are just doing their job. They probably have families and loved ones at home while they're making a living protecting the museum, only to be killed by an archaeologist. Isn't it ironic? And the insult to injury is why she broke into the museum in the first place, which is also the longest level in Tomb Raider 3. Not for an artifact, not for a special key, she broke into the Natural History Museum to steal embalming fluid, which is actually an optional key item. You don't have to get it.
Number 6.
Breaking into the Louvre. On August 21st, 1911, the Louvre Museum was robbed of one of its paintings, a little painting by Da Vinci called the Mona Lisa. Fun little side note, the Mona Lisa wasn't actually well known until this theft hit the newspapers, and then it became one of the most famous paintings in the world overnight. Now, a theft like this surely meant some violence occurred and maybe a security guard was tied up or something, right? Nope, they simply walked out with it. Again, it wasn't famous, so it wasn't as well protected. Now, in Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness, Lara also breaks into the Louvre, not to steal a painting, but to get a security pass from an office. Before she's even up the stairs and inside the Louvre proper, she already murders an innocent security guard. I think we may have a pattern of behaviour here. And technically, she doesn't have to kill any of these guards, but considering they run around the level trying to take her out, they can get in the way. Which, by the way, they only tase her and don't actually shoot her, because that would be excessive. Now, to be fair, she can sneak up behind them and knock them out, but the fact of the matter is that she's still breaking into a museum filled with heavily guarded artifacts and paintings. Not the best idea when the police are all over the city and already looking for you.
Number 5.
Breaking gun laws. Lara's trademark is her dual pistols, or at least it was. Either way, we know that Lara is no stranger to guns. I have no idea exactly where she fits the arsenal she carries with her, but believe it or not, casually walking around with a harpoon gun, a rocket launcher, or just a handgun is a big no-no in a lot of places. Now, Lara being British is already an issue because in the UK, handguns are specifically prohibited. Oddly, you can get a license for things like shotguns or rifles, but not for handguns. True to life though, Lara isn't just rich, she's also very well connected and well respected, so of course this allows her to probably get away with things that us lowly peasants would never be able to. But that's just part of the equation. When you factor in the exotic places Lara travels to, suddenly we see the problem begin to become more complicated and more compounded. For example, in Tomb Raider 3, Lara goes to Antarctica, which is a demilitarized zone. This means no guns, explosives, or ammo are allowed on the continent. Now you get the idea, but let's just quickly go to some of the places Lara has gone and see if she would be allowed to have guns. Polynesia. Handguns prohibited, but shotguns are okay. India. Nope, very strict gun laws. Nevada. A-okay. America. China. Illegal to carry any weapons. Peru. Hey, if it's your gun, you can do whatever you want. Japan. No, absolutely not. I live there. Police don't even have guns.
Number 4.
Committing mass murder. Speaking of guns, let's talk about how she uses them. Now, here's the funny part. You're probably all expecting me to tell you that she used to kill so many people in the older games, but in the reboot trilogy they made her more remorseful or something like that, right? Well, it's surprisingly the opposite. While the new Lara is more sensitive and inexperienced, she has absolutely no problem killing people. Whether it's justified or not is a different issue, but for comparison, in Rise of the Tomb Raider, Lara kills an average of 579 humans per playthrough. That is more than the first 6 Tomb Raider games combined. Not to mention it's on the way to being 1,000 people.
Number 3.
Killing endangered animals.
Is that a jet?
I'm honestly surprised PETA has never gone after the Tomb Raider series because adding to the human deaths, Lara is also responsible for the deaths of many animals. Now, some of the animals, like rats or crows, aren't the worst things, speaking from a purely ecological perspective, but the biggest problem is the killing of endangered animals. Keep in mind, endangered animals are in very low numbers and they're protected because they can go completely extinct. Just one small example, and the most prevalent across the games, is tigers. In 1960, it was estimated that there were about 40,000 tigers in the wild. And as of 2020, the tiger population in the world is about 3,900. So you can see why killing any of them is a really big issue. And it's not just tigers, it's jaguars, sharks, monkeys, snow leopards, pumas, and more. If a guy is shooting at you, you are well within your rights to take him out, but for God's sakes, leave the animals alone, Lara.
Number 2.
Destroying Atlantis. Throughout history, humans have had an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and understanding of the universe. This includes our own history as a species, as well as anything beyond. Among one of the most intriguing mysteries of Earth's past is the existence of Atlantis. And in case you didn't know, few, if any, scientists believe that Atlantis even existed. And now, in our modern time, we have plenty of technology that could easily detect an enormous landmass which would have been the remains of a lost city. What we wouldn't be able to find would be fragments if that island had completely exploded, nor would we even know if there were Atlantean gods still walking among us. When Lara first puts together the pieces of the Skion, she had a vision where all of this was revealed to her in great detail. After the first game, Lara had all of this information in her mind, but seemingly didn't bother reporting it to anyone. Now, one could argue that she has no proof to show, and you could also argue that she wanted to leave it behind. But the fact of the matter is that Lara is the one responsible for it self-destructing when she did this.
Number 1.
Killing dinosaurs. To finish off this list, we have the number 1 complaint from fans of the series, and that is the killing of a T-Rex. There's also several other mythical creatures like the Kraken, Yetis, as well as raptors, but the T-Rex was the most memorable surprise for many gamers. Now, there's not much else to say. She killed some T-Rexes. That's it. But I guarantee you, if some archaeologists found out another archaeologist killed an actual living dinosaur, there would be pandemonium and it would be a very interesting news week.
And that's it for this video. Now, obviously, Lara isn't a monster, and she usually has good intentions. And I know that all the things she does are just part of her adventure to help heighten the experience, so take all of these with a grain of salt. We're just having some fun and having a discussion about the First Lady of Gaming. We love Lara and we celebrate her to this day, even if sometimes she can be a little crazy.
Thank you so much to Chris from Raidercast for being a part of this video. If you'd like to check out his content, I have linked his YouTube and Twitter down below. And if you are a Tomb Raider fan, I highly recommend you go take a peek at his channel. You won't be disappointed. Are there any other video game characters that would warrant a list like this? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, be sure to click the like button, and I invite you to subscribe to my channel for more gaming content like this. I'm Kai Morgan, and as always, thanks for watching Ink Ribbon. And a very special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Your extra support means the world to me and helps me keep making content for you guys.